Well, hey there, shipmates. Once again, back in the shop, and since you guys are now coming into the part of the build where I'm about ready to put the cloth on, and much of the hull has already been constructed. As a matter of fact, the entire major construction of the hull is done, with the exception of obviously fairing it out and putting the cloth on it, and then, of course, painting it. With that being said, I wanted to talk to you guys about the tools that I have used to construct this boat, or at least the hull, thus far, that I've kind of found indispensable. So if anybody is wanting to do this in the future, or do boat work in the future, building a boat, repairing a boat, modifying a boat, which you might want to be careful about that, these are tools that I think would be indispensable for you as well. Certainly, they're not the only options there, but we'll talk about what you can substitute and what you can't. All right. So basically, what we have here is all my hand tools, more or less. Obviously, some are power tools that I have used that I really can't say I could do without, or at least do as well as I have and as fast as I have without these tools. And we're going to go over them real quick. I also have my table saw and my miter saw, as you can see with the desk behind it. It's a little messy, and that's just kind of because I really haven't used it a whole lot lately. But starting with the miter saw, we can start with that. This was used to create the frames, the actual frames like A, B, C, and D, and all back through J for the boat, because it can make compound cuts, so it can do 45-degree angles, 30-degree angles, what have you. It was really indispensable. You could have done it with a circular saw and like a bevel or something like that, but just for ease and quickness and accuracy, you really can't beat the miter saw. I would say it's a must. The table saw, yeah, you nowhere near could get close to having a boat built that you wouldn't need one of these. I mean, it's just imperative to have one of these. It's used for ripping, obviously, so it's used for ripping beams or plywood or anything like that that you would need for the construction. Once again, I really don't see how anybody could build a boat without one of these. That's just me, of course, but I'm pretty sure most professional builders would agree with me. Moving on to the handheld stuff, probably one of the most used tools is my impact. I use that to go ahead and drive like stainless steel deck screws and stuff like that into either the frames, or to put the plywood on and have it hold it to the frames, or the chine log, or the shear. Use it to screw the inner keel and the outer keel together to build the skeg. Obviously, I epoxied in between while also using the screws. I've got to have a screw through it. Maybe I'm weird that way, but the way I see that, it's just an added layer of fastening. And this is the way to go if you need to drive screws. I'm a big fan of the impact, and of course its sister, the drill, which I've used often to bore holes and pilot holes, but for the most part it's been all about the impact, as you can tell with the epoxy laden grip and covers and all that. As a matter of fact, I can't tell you how many times I've actually had this, the forward and back button on it, actually get epoxied on me, to where I had to take a hammer and beat that thing out. So yeah, it's been well used and worth every bit of money I've ever spent on it. Moving over to this little gem here, this is my Sonicrafter. It's an oscillating tool, and this thing I used probably hand over fist more than any other tool I thought I would use. And the reason for that is because it cuts at a horizontal level. I mean, it doesn't cut vertically. So, and it's really controllable. It's got controllable speeds. You can set the speed. So, I mean, it's great for like cutting the notches out on the frames for the chine and the shear, cutting out the notches on the frames themselves to actually accept the keel, and also provide limber holes, which we'll go into that once we get the boat flipped over. But this thing is, I can't begin to tell you how useful it's been. You could have, it did a lot what a chisel could have done, but it would have taken a lot longer. But yeah, I would highly recommend, if anybody is thinking about building a boat, if you don't have one, they're not really all that expensive. I would definitely think about getting one. And as you can tell too, it's definitely got epoxy all over it. So yeah, it's been well used. Moving on, yeah, I mean, things that are kind of a no-duh. I mean, you're going to have a mallet, and not a hammer, a mallet, because this allows you to hit boards or hit pieces of lumber or members without actually denting or damaging them. Like moving frames up and back, that's what I used this for a lot. Or getting a stubborn piece of chine into submission. Yep, that's what it was used for, and it worked great. The block plane, once again, kind of indispensable. You're going to use it a lot for planing out like an angle on a chine, or the angles on the inner keel, things like that. It's real controllable. Now, it's a lot slower than its big brother here, the electric plane, but it does work rather well, and in my opinion, is far more controllable than this. So they both actually have their uses, and I wouldn't just stick with the electric plane. Although it's faster, it's not near as accurate as our friend the block plane. So don't throw out the block plane because you get an electric plane. Word to the wise. The electric plane, once again, I can't say enough good things about it. For taking down a lot of timber real quick, it's perfect. And for scarfing, none better. To make a scarf joint, you'd be a fool not to use one of these, in my opinion. It's really simple to do, and I outlined it in my blog. But I don't think you can see it, but the blades themselves are actually pretty dinged up, and that's because as I was going along planing down the bulkheads here, or the sides of the hull, I would hit these screws. Obviously not on purpose, but it would happen. You're going to find screws. That's just part of planing, especially with an electric plane. However, still well worth the money, well worth the investment. The Jigsaw. Yeah, once again, really can't live without it. It's great for cutting out those plywood inserts that are in the frames. Once again, I'll show you when the boat's flipped over. It's just a lot more difficult to climb under there right now. And I'm a big, tall guy, and I have no business doing that right now. Anyway, it really, really does make itself indispensable because, you can do those nice, tight, angular cuts. Yeah, once again, real controllable. You could do it with like a coping saw or something like that, but yeah, that's an exercise and labor right there, and patience. I just think for the money, get you a good, and even not necessarily a good one. I mean, this is hardly good, but it did the job very well. I can't really complain, and once again, necessary. And then, of course, you have your portable circular saws, some more portable than others. With this is actually my dad's old PorterCable, believe it or not, and yeah, it's either older than I am or almost, and it's worked great. I have used the ever-living crap out of this thing to cut plywood sheet, to rip plywood sheet down, or I'm sorry, cross-cut plywood sheet, and rip it to an extent when I didn't think I could get it on the table saw. But to manage and trim down the plywood, yeah, this is a must, absolute must. and it works great. Obviously, it's got a cord, so I mean, it's only as portable as you can get an extension cord. But being that we're in a shop, that's really not a problem. Now, if I wasn't building in a shop and I had to be outside all the time, I would give serious consideration to one of these guys. And that's, once again, it's PorterCable, 20 volt lithium ion, you know, and battery powered. So clearly you can take this thing places you probably can't get this thing. I've had this one up on the boat several times where I just didn't want to have to fight all these cords. And with that being said, this one is certainly more powerful, and you don't have to worry about battery or juice dying on you like you do this one. But this one is just, for portability, you can't beat it. I mean, you can take it anywhere, or damn near anywhere in the boat, and it works like a champ. Cuts plywood, no problem. But if you're doing a lot of plywood work and a lot of cutting with this, like on plywood or something that it's going to be running a lot, needless to say, the battery life isn't really worth a toot. I mean, you're not gonna get the longevity out of it that you would this. So, I mean, there's a trade-off, but if I was working outside and I could have a fresh stock of batteries, I would probably use this. But once again, that's, you know, that's a personal decision. But like I said, gotta have a circular saw, whether it be whether it be battery powered, or whether it be, you know, the old school, give her a plug in and let her go to town. Just gotta have them. And that'll pretty much conclude all the tools that I have found absolutely necessary. Now, there are some I've left out because I didn't find that they were overly necessary, or they're kind of no-brainers. So, like I said, I would hope that this is somewhat beneficial for you if you've never built a boat or you don't know really what to use or what would be the best tool for the job. And like I said, with my hull being almost done and ready to flip, I figured I would just try to catch you guys up on what it was I did use to, or found really useful to complete the hull. Anyway, that should be about it for now, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the flip side.